Measure and call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill Number 6875, an act to prevent, prohibit, and penalize terrorism, thereby repealing Republic Act Number 9372, otherwise known as the Human Security Act of 2007. Roll call of members in consideration on third reading of House Bill Number 6875. Abante. Abaya. Abellanosa. Abu. Abueg Saldivar. Abunda. Acop. Acosta. Acosta Alba. Adyong. Advincula. Agabas. Agaraw. Aglipay. Aguinaldo. Albano. Almario. Alonte. Alvarez Franz. Alvarez Genaro. Alvarez Pantaleon. Amante Matba. Amatong. Andaya. Angara. Aragones. Arbison. Arenas. Arroyo. Atienza. Aumentado. Babasa. Bagatsing. Balindong. Banyas Nograles. Barba. Barbers. Baronda. Barzaga. Baskug. Bautista. Bautista Bandigan. Belmonte.
Mr. Speaker, I vote no, and I reserve my right to explain my vote after the
We have 2 minutes after the voting, Congressman Belmonte. Secretary, please proceed.
Benitez. Bernos. Biazon. Billones. Biron. Bolilia. Bondok. Bordado. Bravo. Brosas.
Mr. Speaker, ang boto po ng kinatawan na ito ay no, hindi. Maaari po bang mag-explain ng boto mamaya?
Yes, you have 3 minutes later after the voting. Secretary.
Bulot. Bustos. Kabatbat. Kabochan. Cabredo. Cagas. Calderon. Calixto. Caminero. Campos. Kanama. Kawagdan. Kari. Castelo. Castro Franz.
Mr. Speaker, this representation vote no to House Bill 6875, and I reserve my right to explain my vote later.
You can explain your vote later, ma'am. Please proceed, Secretary.
Castro Fredenil. Cayetano Alan Peter. Cayetano Mariela Arni. Celeste. Chato. Chipeco. Chungalao. Co Angelica. Co Elizaldi. Coanco. Colyantes. Crisologo. Cua. Cuaresma, Cueva, Kulyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Datol, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar, De Los Santos, Del Oso Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael, D. Ian Paul, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron.
Mr. Speaker, may I know how my vote was recorded?
You can explain your vote later. Huh? Do you have your vote already, Congresswoman Garin?
Mr.
May I know your
Speaker,
vote?
I vote no and allow me to explain my vote after the voting.
Okay, you have 3 minutes later after the voting. So again, you may proceed.
Heron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali,
Minutes lang dapat.
Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Gico, Gulias, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez,
No, my vote is no. And I would like to explain my vote later.
You can explain your vote later.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Please proceed, Section.
Herrera D, Hofer, Haloshos, Javier, Jimenez, Co Elisa, Co Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lazatin, Liachon, Legarda, Lim, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Naganyo, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Nunez Malaniaon, Waminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Juano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Ramos, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes,
Mr. Speaker, my vote is no, and I reserve my right to explain my vote later, Mr. Speaker.
You have 3 minutes later. You can explain your vote. Please proceed, the Secretary.
Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yeda, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sangkopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulug, Savellano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay.
Mr. Speaker, my vote is no, and I would like to explain my vote.
You have 3 minutes later. You can explain your vote. Secretary.
C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alaysa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherney, Tejada, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikurat, Zarate,
Mr. Speaker, ang boto po ng kinatawang ito ay no at ako po ay magpapaliwanag mamaya. At gusto ko ring i-manifest na ang ating mga kasamahan, si Representative Ilago, Gaiti, and Colyamat ay nagreserba din ng kanilang gustong mag-explain sa kanilang boto pero nakamute lang sila kanina sa Zoom. So sana po ay maitala na gusto rin nilang mag-explain ng kanilang boto. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Congressman Zarate. The Secretary General will call later. We will explain their vote. Section, you may proceed.
Zubiri,
With 173 affirmative, 31 negative. Sandali lang po kasi may umahabol pa yata sa Zoom. Ito yung one, eh. Ito na yung bago. With 173 affirmative, 31 negative, 29 abstention, House Bill number 6875 is now approved on third and final reading. Secretary General, you can now call those members who would like to explain their votes.
Honorable Abante.
Minority Leader Abante, nasa Zoom yata.
Mr. Speaker,
Please proceed, Minority Leader.
my friends, my partners and colleagues in the plenary and joining me here in the Zoom session, mga kababayan, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Nais ko munang banggitin ang nakalagay sa banal na aklat na ang sinasabi sa Romans 13 and verse number 1 and 3. The powers that be are ordained of God. Naniniwala po ako, Mr. Speaker, my colleague ng ating Pangulo, ating pangalawang Pangulo, ang ating mga senador, ating mga congressman, ay inordinahan ng Diyos upang mamuno sa ating bayan at maging example po ng tunay na pumumuno. Nakalagay po sa verse 3, for rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. I vote no to Senate Bill number 1083. Dahil ko nabanggit yung Senate Bill. Eh kasi naman, yung ating House Bill 6875 ay kinopya ng buong buo sa Senate Bill 1083. The House of Representatives, with all the brilliant minds and learned men and women in this chamber, more than 300 of them, Mr. Speaker, laban sa 23 mga senador, simply adopted the Senate version of the anti-terror bill and did not even see it fit to deliberate and formulate its own version. Na walang saysay ang check and balance, na siyang dahilan kung bakit may dalawang kapulungan ang ating lehislatura. Sa ating pamamadali na may pasa ang anti-terror bill, ipinakita natin sa buong bayan na ang House of Representatives ay tama ngang tawaging mababang kapulungan o lower house, na dapat ang tawag po ay larger house. As a minority leader, I recognize that this is a different world with different technologies, different issues, and different threats from terrorists and other forms of destabilization. Yet we must examine every item that is proposed in response to these terrorist threats to be sure we are not rewarding these terrorists and weakening ourselves by giving up the cherished freedoms that they seek to destroy. The Irish statesman John Philpott Curran once said, and I quote, "The condition upon which God had given liberty to man is eternal vigilance." End of quote. To this I agree, Mr. Speaker, Your Honors. We must redouble our vigilance to ensure our security and to prevent further acts of terror. But we must also redouble our vigilance to preserve our values and the basic rights that make us who we are. Section 29 of this bill that we are voting on would allow the Anti-Terror Council to order the arrest of people suspected of committing any of the acts punished by the bill. Under our Constitution, warrants of arrest can only be issued by the courts. Section 25 of this bill would also empower the ATC to designate people or groups, designate, mind you, which it deems to be involved in terror acts. Those designated would be subject to sanctions by the Anti-Money Laundering Council, such as freezing of assets without notice or hearing. Under our Constitution, no person should be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Section 9 of this bill also designated a new crime, which is inciting to terrorism, which is defined as, I quote, any person who, without taking any direct part in the commission of terrorism, shall incite others to the execution of any of the acts specified in Section 4 hereof by means of speeches, proclamations, writings, emblems, banners, or other full representations tending to do the same end. End of quote. Ibig sabihin nito, lahat ng kritiko ng gobyerno at mga may hinaing laban sa gobyerno ay pwede nang ipaaresto. Nakakatakot po ito, mga kapatid, mga kasama. Under this bill, anyone suspected of being a terrorist can be detained without warrant for up to 24 days. Kahit sino sa atin ay maaaring ipaaresto at makulong ng 24 days nang walang anumang kasong isinasampa sa hukuman. Naunawaan ko naman na kailangan bigyan ng karagdagang kapangyarihan ang mga pulis at armed forces upang magsugpo ang panganib na dulot ng mga teroristang grupo. Of course, there is no doubt that if we live in a police state, it would be easier to catch terrorists. If we live in a country that allowed the police to search your home at any time for any reason, if we live in a country that allowed the government to open your mail, eavesdrop on your phone conversations, or intercept your email communications, if we live in a country that allowed the government to hold people in jail indefinitely based on what they write or think, or based on mere suspicion that they are up to no good, then the government would no doubt discover and arrest more terrorists. But that probably would not be a country in which we would want to live. Hindi po yan ang aking pinapangarap para sa aking mga anak at sa aking mga apo, mga kabayan. The reason why we are enacting a new anti-terror bill is to preserve our freedom and our way of life. The questionable and unconstitutional provisions of this bill defeats the very purpose why we are enacting this bill in the first place. Evil triumphs when good men and women do nothing. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, I vote no. Maraming salamat po sa inyo.
The Honorable Barbers.
Speaker, may I know how my vote was registered?
Ano daw boto?
May I know how my vote?
Kini-check pa po, boss, ay kung your vote is yes po, Congressman.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, allow me to explain my vote.
Yes, you may proceed.
Speaker, esteemed, Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues, I am one of the original authors of the anti-terrorism law, which we now call the Human Security Act, or the Republic Act 9372. Thus, I am expected to have no issue with House Bill number 6875. In fact, I laud the armed forces and the Philippine National Police and the President for this very timely measure. After all, who loves terrorists? However, even though I agree in principle, I have some misgivings on certain provisions of this bill. For one, this bill, being an amendment of the Human Security Act, should have been amendatory in nature and not repealing. Second, I find it bothersome that some of the safeguards in the present law were discarded. For real terrorists, this bill is good. For captured Abu Sayyaf terrorists, Maute bandits, and other armed rebel groups, as well as foreigners who aid them, this measure is laudable. Putting them in custody for long periods so as to be able to extract valuable information from them is ideal. But for those hapless individuals who may be victimized for the flimsiest reason by abusive individuals, how will they be treated? We all know from our rich political history how abusive law enforcers who are backed up by local and national politicians can arrest people on trumped-up charges and destroy their lives in future and their families as well. This is the heart of the decades-old rebellion that we are fighting until now, without an end in sight still. The objective is laudable, Mr. Speaker, but in the hands of the wrong people, this bill is a potent weapon which can be politically used. That is my greatest apprehension. Another example could be political dissent before and during elections, most especially. People critical of the sitting administration, both in the local and the national levels, may be threatened with this crime, and all their conversations may be tagged as authorized under this bill. If some people resort to this method, new rebels will be born, and the cycle will be repeated until these new fighters will know nothing else but to fight. Until rebellion becomes their way of life, like in the other countries, like in the Middle East, generations upon generations of fighters who know nothing else but war. We all want peace. We all want to run after terrorists and prevent them from sowing terror and destruction in our lives and property. But if we use this bill against innocent individuals, we ourselves commit terrorism because we wantonly violate their constitutional rights. And worse, we too destroy their lives and their future. By allowing a group of politicized individuals who comprise a task force as a substitute to the impartial judges and civilian courts, in ordering the arrest and detention of any individual who may be suspected of being engaged in terrorism as broadly defined under Section 4, seems violative of our democratic and constitutional rights as we know it, as well as the doctrine of the checks and balances under a democratic government, where three branches have their own respective jurisdictions and are independent of each other. Even merely threatening to kill or injure an individual, which is grave threat under the revised penal code, is already a crime with a steeper penalty under this bill. So, Mr. Speaker, with all these things that I mentioned, these are just but a few of my concerns in this bill. There are others that still needs to be scrutinized deeply and extensively. Since we're running out of time and we have to act and approve on this measure, I am hopeful that during the BICAM, amendments will be entertained, especially on provisions that protect our constitutional rights. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'm not closing that possibility of amendments during the BICAM. Therefore, after all has been said, my vote is yes, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Belmonte.
Mr. Speaker, may I explain my vote?
Please proceed, Congressman Belmonte.
Thank you very much, Mr.
3
Speaker.
minutes. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, we are being tasked to tackle this bill that supposedly aims to curb terrorism, while the vast majority of our countrymen are at this very moment experiencing real and actual terror. Terror ang nararamdaman ng taong nahawa sa COVID-19 at hindi alam kung makakatawid siya sa sakit na ito. Terror ang nararamdaman ng mga kapamilya at kapitbahay niyang hindi alam kung nahawa na rin sila. Terror ang nararamdaman ng mga nawalan ng kabuhayan at hindi alam kung saan kukunin ang ipapakain sa pamilya niya. Terror ang nararamdaman ng mga pumapasok sa trabaho sa kabila ng pangambang mahawa sa virus. Terror ang nararamdaman ng mga business owners na lumulubog ang negosyo at ng mga empleyado nilang nawawalan ng trabaho. Ilalapag ko lang sa plenaryo, Mr. Speaker. Lahat ng nabanggit ko ay terror. A more immediate, more pervading terror. Wala ni isa doon ay tinutugunan ng panukalang tinatalakay natin ngayon. Reasonable ba, Mr. Speaker, na humarap tayo sa ating mga nasasakupan at sabihin sa kanila, pasensya na kayo. Sinabay pa namin ang terror bill sa mass testing at stimulus bills na magliligtas sa mga buhay, negosyo at trabaho ninyo. Matanong ko, Mr. Speaker, gusto ba talagang pigilan lang ng batas na ito ang terorismo? O sa totoo lang, gusto nitong bigyan ng lisensya ang pamahalaan na magparatang at mag-aresto ng walang pananagutan o kabayaran kung magkamali. Sa panukalang ito, kapag may suspected na terorista kang katropa, kung miyembro ka ng isang fraternity, nag-host ka ng party, may-ari ka ng boarding house, or nagmaneho ka ng sasakyan na nagkataong may tao na itinuturing na terorista ng Estado, sorry na lang, pwede kang ikulong ng at least 14 days at nakakulong ka habang pinapatunayang inosente ka. At sa panukala rin ito, Mr. Speaker, kung may sabihin kang pwedeng ituring na naghihimok ng terorismo, pwede ka ring arestuhin. At ano ang mangyayari kung wala ka palang ginawang mali? Kapag sabihin nilang good faith ang pag-aresto sa iyo, kahit ba na trauma ka at ang pamilya mo, kahit nasisanti ka sa trabaho, tapos na ang kwento. Wala kang maaasahang kabayaran o pananagutan. Mr. Speaker, it seems to me that this bill was not merely intended to help bring actual terrorists to justice. It is intended to widen the net of who can be considered terrorists. It is intended to circumvent the constitutional and legal structures that keep the vast powers of the state in check on the pretext of fighting terrorism. Gusto ba natin talaga ito, Mr. Speaker? With this bill, in the guise of protecting our country, we are in fact undermining it and its institutions. We are repressing our freedoms. We are in fact destroying our democracy. Why now, Mr. Speaker? Why are we adding terror to terror? Sa mga kadahilanang ito, Mr. Speaker, malinaw na dapat tutulan ang batas na ito. I vote no to House Bill 6875. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Bordado.
Congressman Bordado. Congressman Bordado, you can explain your vote now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I fully agree with President Rodrigo Roa Duterte for the urgent need to amend the Human Security Act of 2007 to adequately and effectively contain the menace of terrorist acts for the preservation of national security and the promotion of general welfare. 13 years after the passage of the Act, a lot of things had happened here in the Philippines and in other parts of the world. Since then, Mr. Speaker, terrorism has been haunting us, with the infamous Marawi siege serving as a recent reminder. Mr. Speaker, we do need a very strong anti-terrorism law. Unfortunately, certain provisions of House Bill 6875, Mr. Speaker, threaten to put our countrymen in peril, practically squashing their civil liberties and putting their freedom in virtual jeopardy. I am therefore voting no to House Bill 6875, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Brosas.
Mr. Speaker, isang malakas na botong no ang inirehistro ng Gabriela Women's Party sa anti-terrorism bill na niratsyada ngayon sa kapulungang ito. Kahit pa humaharap tayo sa COVID-19 pandemic at krisis pang-ekonomiya. Hindi ang mga may armas na nangho-hostage at nambobomba ang pangunahing tatamaan ng panukalang ito. Dahil sa aktwal, mga ordinaryong mamamayang galit sa gobyerno ang unang maaaresto kapag pinirmahan ito. Nagliligalisa ito ng terorismo ng gobyerno laban sa mga kritiko. Terorismo laban sa mga nagtatanggol ng demokratikong karapatan. Kung hindi ka raw terorista, wala raw dapat ipag-alala at ikatakot sa panukalang ito. Subalit klaro sa mga probisyon ng anti-terror bill na kahit ordinaryong mamamayan ay pwedeng maakusahan na terorista by mere association or indirect relation to the Terrorist Act. Iniisip mo pa lang na manawagan ng pag-aalsa sa EDSA para patalsikin ng Pangulo, makukulong ka na. Dadamputin ka at ikukulong hanggang 2 linggo, kahit wala kang kaso sa korte. At kahit labag ito sa itinatakda sa saligang batas, kaugnay ng due process. Ang masahol pa, ituturing kang kriminal hanggat mapatunayang wala kang sala. Inalis din ang proteksyon sa mga biktima dahil tinanggal ang kompensasyon sa wrongful arrest at illegal detention. Paano tayo mapapanatag sa pagbibigay ng malawak na kapangyarihan sa Anti-Terrorism Council o ATC, gayong ang mga bumubuo nito ay miyembro rin ng NTF-ELCAC o National Task Force on the Elimination of Local Communist Armed Conflict na tahasang binabansagan ngayon na terorista ang Gabriela. That is why we will never be satisfied by the assurances of the authors. Because the military generals, red tagging us right now, will be the ones wielding the terrorist designation power. At paano tayo mapapanatag kung bibigyan ng kapangyarihan ng AFP at PNP na mang-wiretap at manghalukay ng personal data ng kahit sinong pinaghihinalaang terorista hanggang 60 days. Gayong may record sila ng pang-aabuso at pananamantala sa mga kababaihan at mamamayan. Mr. Speaker, minadali ang panukalang ito dahil sa kumpas ni Pangulong Duterte. Kahit pa ang konkretong problema ngayon ay kung paano makakapasok sa trabaho at kung paano malalamnan ang sikmurang kumakalam ng milyong-milyong Pilipino. Gusto ng gobyerno na matakot at manahimik na lang tayo. Tanggapin na lang ang gutom, kalbaryo ng paglalakad at problema sa transportasyon at kainutilan sa pagbibigay ng ayuda sa hikahos na mamamayan. Tanggapin na lang itong new normal na pabor sa mayayaman at makapangyarihan. Pero kumukulo na ang galit ng kababaihan at mamamayan. Gustong-gusto na nila na maningil sa kapalpakan at kapabayaan. At sa tala ng ating kasaysayan, walang batas militar o diktador ang nakapigil sa pagsirit ng pagkilos ng mamamayan. Maraming salamat.
The Honorable Kabatbat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Congressman Kabatbat, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Noong eleksyon ng 2019, napakaraming lumabas na listahan ng mga party list na di umano'y lumalaban sa gobyerno at estado, ng mga rebelde daw at mga terorista. Kasama po doon ang ating party list. Nagulat po ako kasi wala naman kaming kinalaman sa terorismo. Hindi tayo miyembro ng kahit anong terrorist group at hindi natin sinusuportahan ang terorismo. Nangangampanya na kami at nagpapakilala, panay pa ang paliwanag namin sa kung sino man ang interesado makinig, na hindi kami dapat na isama sa listahan na yun. Bandang huli, natanggal ang party list natin at hindi naman na naisama sa mga sumunod na lumabas na mga listahan. Pero the damage has been done. Doon ko naintindihan na kaya pala naisama kami sa listahan na yun ay dahil sa pangalan ng ating party list. Yun ay ang magsasaka party list. Doon ko naunawaan ng stereotype sa mga magsasaka na ang tingin sa kanila ay mga rebelde, bayolente, subversibo, at terorista. Sa maraming tao, walang pinag-iba ang lahat ng ito. At yun ang nakakalungkot. Nandun na pala tayo sa punto na ang baba-baba at ang sama-sama ng tingin natin sa mga nagpapakain sa atin, ang mga magsasaka. Kaya naman nung ipasa ang panukalang ito, ginawa kong personal na misyon na maproteksyonan ang mga magsasaka para hindi sila mapagbintangan o makulong ng walang kalaban-laban sa batas na ito. Dinagdag din namin na laliman ang pagtingin sa riot o looting katulad ng mga nagaganap ngayon sa Amerika. At huwag itong isama sa definisyon ng terorismo. Huwag din isama ang mga pangyayari katulad ng ginawa ni Alche Paray na security guard sa Green Hills na nang hostage dahil ang lahat ng ito ay ginawa dahil sa desperasyon at sistematikong kawalan ng hustisya. Sinusubukan naming makiusap para pakinggan ang mga magsasaka na laging unang naiipit sa giyera at karahasan. Pero nakakalungkot na hindi kinilala ang aming mga amendments. Para sa ating mga sandataang lakas, ilang araw na lang ay mabibigyan na kayo ng pambihirang kapangyarihan. You don't deserve that kind of power. No one does. But I beg you to use that power with justice, prudence, and with the objective of attaining lasting peace for everyone. I challenge you to remove the fears of the Filipino people that they will be abused by this law. Pasensya na, Mr. Speaker, in the interest of our farmers and the rest of the Filipino people, our sector cannot support this measure. I vote no on House Bill 6875 and I'm withdrawing support for this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Castro Franz.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Mass testing, contact tracing, PPEs at iba pang proteksyon para sa ating front health workers, sapat na bilang na isolation and treatment facilities, kagyat at sapat na ayuda para sa libo-libong Pilipinong nagugutom at maliliit na negosyong nanganganib na tumiklop. Ilan lang ito, Mr. Speaker, sa napakaraming issue na matagal na nating dapat inaprubahan. Pero ano ang prioridad ng administrasyong ito? Higit pang autoritarianismo at pagyurak sa karapatang pantao. Hindi pa nga ipinapasa ang anti-terror bill. Pinapakita na ng mga pulisya, militar at ng buong administrasyong ito na hindi ito mapagkakatiwalaang magkaroon ng napakalaking kapangyarihan at anumang emergency powers. Sa 2 buwang tinakbo ng lockdown, walang araw na dumaan nang walang nauulat na iligal na pag-aresto at pagkulong o police brutality o extrajudicial killing. Mas masipag pa kaysa sa contact tracing o regular na swabbing ng mga frontliners ang paghahabol sa ordinaryong mamamayan, relief volunteers, netizens, at di kaalyadong politiko upang kasuhan sila o takutin, nakakasuhan. Mas marami pang tao at PUBs na inaresto, pinagbayad, pinakulong kaysa sa mga taong tines sa COVID-19. Bilyones na ang hinugot mula sa 2019 at 2020 General Appropriation Act. Pero nasaan ang PPEs at dagdag na mga doktor, nurse at iba pang mga frontliners? Bakit kulang pa rin ang isolation at testing centers? Nasaan ang ayuda? Ano nga ba ang maaaring gawin laban sa isang Pilipino sa oras na maging batas ang bill na ito? Lisensya ang anti-terror bill para sa malawakang paniniktik, pag-aresto ng walang warrant, pagkulong ng halos 1 buwan ng walang kaso sa korte. Saksi ako, Mr. Speaker, sa mga ganitong pangyayari sa ngayon pa lang. Pag-aresto, pagkulong sa mga taong wala pang kaso ay nasa kulungan na. Pag-freeze ng assets at iba pa. Lahat ng ito batay sa suspetsa lamang na terorista. Ang isang tao o organisasyon o kung may proseso man, makaisang panig. Binaliktad ang basic justice principle. Ang sinasabi, Mr. Speaker, you are innocent until proven guilty. Pero dito sa anti-terror bill, you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. Napakalabo at napakalawak na definisyon ng terorismo at iba pang krimen sa ilalim ng bill na ito, na sinasamahan ng napakalaking kapangyarihan ng pulis, militar at mga ahente at opisina sa loob ng Anti-Terrorism Council. Hindi lang progresibo o oposisyon sa politika ang bibiktimahin ng draconian na batas na ito, kundi pati simpleng guro, estudyante, manggagawa, magsasaka, lahat ng Pilipinong magtatangkang maglabas ng saloobin, online man o hindi, o isabuhay ang anumang karapatan sa ilalim ng batas at konstitusyon. Sa pagpasa ngayon ng ganitong kabulok na panukala, matapos ang peking deliberasyon mula komite hanggang plenaryo at sa kabila ng matinding krisis na rumaragasa, isang katotohanan ang mailalantad. Hindi COVID ang kikitil sa buhay, kabuhayan, karapatan at kalayaan ng mga Pilipino, kundi ang mismong gobyerno nila. Higit sa lahat, masasagot ang tanong, sino ang tunay na terorista? Sa ngalan ng bawat Pilipino, ang kalayaan at karapatan, ang kinatawang ito, 10 ng ACT Teachers Party List ay bumoboto dito sa House Bill 6875. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Kulyamat.
Honorable Kulyamat. Honorable Kulyamat, please proceed to your explanation.
Yes, sir.
Please proceed po. Kamute po yata kayo, ma'am. Congresswoman Kuyamat, please proceed po. Nakamute po yata kayo, paki-check lang po. We cannot hear you po.
Maraming salamat. Mr. Speaker, ang buong tinatawang ito sa panukalang batas, House Bill number 6875, presentasyong ito ay bumutol ng no. Ayon sa Kongreso at Malacanang, pangontra raw ito sa terorismo at mga terorista. Subalit, kung susuriin natin ito ng mabuti, may ibang layunin ang panukalang ito. Hindi ito para sa terorista, kung hindi para ito sa mga kritiko, aktivista o mga ordinaryong mamamayan na tumututol sa mga katiwalian at maling pamamalakad ng gobyerno. Ang terror bill ay labag sa ating saligang batas. Walang anumang panukalang batas ang dapat lumusot kung ito ay lumalabag sa ating konstitusyon. Particular sa Section 1, Article 3 o ang Bill of Rights na nagsabing bago mapagkaitan ng buhay, kalayaan at ari-arian ang isang tao, dapat ay may due process. Dapat korte ang magpataw nito para masiguro ang due process. Sa ilalim ng terror law na ito, ang Terror Council, Anti-Terror Council ay binibigyan ng nakakabahalang kapangyarihan na mag-designate o magtakda kung sino ang terorista. Kahit walang utos ng korte o mamarapat na proseso ng batas. Kapag na-designate na bilang terorista, lahat ng parusa o measure na ipinapataw ng batas na ito para sa terorista ay maaari nang gamitin laban sa binansagang terorista kahit hindi dumaan sa korte o walang panghukumang proseso. Sa ilalim ng terror bill, maaari ding makulong ang isang taong hinuli ng 14 days kahit hindi pa nasampahan ng kaso. Totoong nakakasuklam ang terorismo, dapat itong gapiin. Subalit, hindi pagwasak ng mga sandigang karapatan ng mamamayan na ginagarantiyahan ng ating saligang batas. Walang magagaping terorismo kung ang iiral lamang ay ang terorismo ng gobyerno laban sa kanyang mamamayan. Nararapat ko lamang ilahad ang mga saloobin ko bilang isang lumad na galing ng Mindanao. May responsibilidad ako sa bayan na ito at sa kapwa kong katutubo na tutulan at labanan luktot at immoral na mga palisiya kontra mamamayan. Mahal ko ang bansa ko. Hindi ako pwedeng magbulag-bulagan at magbingi-bingihan sa mga pangyayari ngayon. Kaya palagi kong ipapahayag ang hinaing namin ng mga katutubo at magsasaka. Muli, hindi higit pang mapanupil ang solusyon sa mapanupil ng sistema na nagdulot ng kawalang hustisya, lupa, desenteng trabaho. Tutol ako at ibang mga katutubo at magsasaka sa terror bill sapagkat mahal natin ang ating bansa at ang ating mga mamamayan. Kaya no ang boto ko sa House Bill number 6875. Ibasura ang panukalang terror bill na ito. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Speaker.
The Honorable Dagook.
Congressman Dagook, please proceed po sa explanation at vote nyo. Please proceed po, Kong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Magandang gabi po sa lahat. I voted yes with great reservation for the reason that I support our effort na masupil natin ang terorismo. But much has been said about the constitutionality of some of the provisions. Kaya po, yung ayaw ko na pong ulitin yung mga nasabi na mga kagalang-galang na kasamahan natin dahil I am also in agreement with their observation. At kaya po bumoto ako ng yes. I would like to reiterate because I wanted to support the government's effort in our people against terrorism. I hope that all of the reservations at mga pangamba na nasabi ng ating mga kasamahan sa kapulungang ito ay matalakay sa BICAM at masolusyonan at hindi mangyari yung ating mga agam-agam. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Dimaporo Khalid.
Congressman Khalid Dimaporo, you recognize. You have 3 minutes to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, on the onset, I'd like to state that I voted to abstain on House Bill 6875. And I want to place in the record my support for the Duterte administration in its fight against terrorism. My vote for martial law in Mindanao, when I voted yes, speaks for that case. My vote for the extension of martial law, when I voted yes, also speaks for that case. However, when it comes to the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, House Bill 6875, I felt compelled to have vote in abstention. And the reason being, foremost, one, we were not allowed to ask any questions. I simply want to be cleared or, answered. I want that there were some clarificatory questions that I wanted answered so I can understand how important House Bill 6875 is for our country. First, I wanted to know, what's the status now? We just went through how many years of martial law? And I have reports from the Regional Peace and Order Council, Provincial Peace and Order Council, that in the Lanao region, we have eradicated the terrorists. So what's the status now? Why is it so urgent that we have an anti-terrorism law? Akala ko tapos na tayo dito. I could not ask that question in the plenary. Secondly, I wanted to know what is the purpose and why is this so urgent to have an anti-terrorism law? When we discussed the extension of martial law for Mindanao, I asked Secretary Lorenzana that in Mindanao, we benefit from the suspension of writ of habeas corpus. But what about in Luzon and in Visayas? We have more than 80 terrorists at large. How are you going to capture them without the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus? Ang sagot ni Secretary Lorenzana is, those terrorists have been filed cases and have standing arrest warrants. If we're able to do it that way, why do we need House Bill 6875 when we have the capability and the manpower and the ability to file cases, terrorists that are at large? I wanted that answered in the plenary so I can at least have a clean conscience in voting and supporting House Bill 675. Now, my third question that I wanted answered, Mr. Speaker, was the practicability of this anti-terror bill. Because the real meat of this is to detain terrorists. But all you have to do is look at the top 2 terrorists that were at large in Mindanao. One is Nilon Apilon. 2, Marwan. Never did it end in detention of those terrorists. As soon as SAF went into Maguindanao to try and capture Marwan, it ended in a firefight. When the AFP heard that Isnilon Hapilon is there in Marawi City, they were ambushed, and we ended up with the Marawi siege. There is no practicability of serving an arrest warrant or trying to capture high-profile terrorists, real terrorists. What we really need in Mindanao are more police and more armed forces so that we can properly secure our region. These are questions that I wanted answered, but we weren't allowed to ask clarificatory questions, so I could not in good conscience vote yes for House Bill 6875. And last but not least, Mr. Speaker, I would like to place on the record that my real contention with this bill, where I feel uneasy, is the issue of warrantless arrests. And I feel that it's unfair that for us in the House of Representatives, we were not allowed to amend Section 29. We were accused, several Congresses, 16, 17 Congress, of being a rubber stamp of Malacanang. You know, if we act this way and we are not allowed to amend Senate bills, we might be accused of being the rubber stamp of the Senate. I believe that we could have come up with a better version, and how I wish we could have amended Section 29, Mr. Speaker. These are the reasons why I vote in abstention. And I wanted to place it on record so the administration will know the reason of my vote and why I could not support House Bill 675. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Ilago.
Congresswoman Sara Ilago, you may proceed to your explanation of vote.
Salamat, Ginoong Speaker. We are in the midst of a public health crisis. The people in communities most affected by lockdown are still suffering from lost jobs and income aggravated by the lack of immediate support from the government. Worse, inconsistent pronouncements on testing, tracing, and other health measures have only fueled more confusion and anxiety in dealing with the pandemic. Mr. Speaker, we have persistently called for a comprehensive, effective, humane, and participatory approach to COVID-19. But we are met with this draconian, disproportionate, and discriminatory response instead. Railroading the anti-terror bill with an overly broad, vague definition of terrorism is not only prone to misuse and abuse, but also it is not helping our fight against COVID-19. Transparency and openness to fairly address people's concerns and sentiments are what we need the most now. In certifying an anti-terror bill as urgent, the Duterte regime further reveals itself to be desperately targeting not the coronavirus, but criticism and dissent on its response to the public health emergency. Among the administration's anti-poor and anti-democratic policies, the anti-terror bill gives a free pass for human rights violations, legitimizing warrantless arrests, extended detentions, wanton crackdown on critics, and prolonged surveillance of civilians. Through the anti-terror bill, the President, through political appointees in the Anti-Terrorism Council, is granted the absolute power to suppress dissent and go after critics and the opposition. Ginoong Speaker, libo-libo na ang napaslang sa ilalim ng gera kontra droga. Ang mga bata at kabataan tulad ni Kian de los Santos, Justin Lopez, Mike Olpina, Carl Arnaiz, Reynald de Guzman. Napaslang kahit hindi naman addict o may kinalaman sa drug trade. Marami pa sa mga kaso ng mga pamamaslang ay wala pang pananagutan o resolusyon o wala pang nakakamit ng hustisya. Hindi sila mga drogista, hindi sila mga addict. Ngunit sabihin mo sa amin ngayon kung bakit hindi kami dapat matakot. Ganun ang mga inosente at walang kalaban-laban ay nadadamay at napapaslang. Ginoong Speaker, may higit 450 na pong namatay na rin sa kustudiya ng kapulisan, kasama na si Tisoy Argoncillo na hinuli dahil sa Oplan Tambay. May mga kaso pa rin walang malinaw na sabihin niyo sa amin na hindi kami dapat mabahala. Saksi rin ang mga kabataan sa sa dami ng mga kaso ng illegal na pag-aresto, pagtatanim ng bala at ebidensya, pagsampa ng gawa-gawang kaso, at pagkakulong kahit wala pang batayan sa mga kritiko, mga labor leaders, advocates at human rights defenders. Sila ay mga aktivista, hindi mga terorista. Pinagkakagastusan ng buwis mismo ng mamamayan ang pagdodoktor ng mga larawan, mga video para lubos na siraan ang mga kritiko at oposisyon sa pamamagitan ng tahasang false information at disinformation. Binabansagang mga terorista ang mga aktivista at mga karaniwang mamamayan na nagpapahayag ng kanilang mga saloobin at karaingan. Ang aktivismo ay hindi terorismo, ang kritisismo ay hindi terorismo. At present, Mr. Speaker, youth and students are already being ruthlessly targeted and vilified for exercising their right to protest abuses, incompetence, and unequal application of the law. This crackdown on dissent against the backdrop of worsening climate of impunity poses danger not only to voices but also the very lives of those who are speaking up for the voiceless. Ginoong Speaker, ito po ang nagtulak para sa mga kabataan, mga scholar ng bayan, at mga estudyante upang magpanday ng mga pahayag ng pagkakaisa. 95 courts sa ilalim ng civil rights. Nasa 400,000 ang mga pumirma ng petisyon ng Defense PPL laban sa anti-terror bill na may mga unconstitutional na mga provisions. At nasa 95 din na orgs ang nakapirma na sa Youth Act Now Against Tyranny Unity Statement. Ang kasama na ng 300 na mga leaders ng mga student councils at mga campus press. At ito po ang ilan sa nilalaman ng kanilang pahayag. And I quote, "For the record as their youth representation, to replace the Human Security Act, the anti-terror bill will serve as an instrument of the Duterte administration to threaten and silence those who criticize the social and economic policies that have adverse effects on the Filipino people. It will unleash state terror for any person or group can be considered as a terrorist based merely on suspicion or association. The anti-terror bill is not intended to target real terrorists who can already be punished under current laws. The anti-terror bill will justify state-perpetrated abuses and human rights violations, for it will grant vast powers to the military and police in the name of security and peace, allowing warrantless arrest and detention of up to 24 days without charges. The anti-terror bill will give legal basis to the undeclared martial law that reigns in our country today. We do not cross so-called safeguards in the anti-terror bill, as the implementers of the bill passed are the same institutions that have committed countless abuses through the fake and bloody war on drugs and the counter-insurgency program in provinces and regions. The anti-terror bill also attacks the academic freedom which schools, students, and teachers seek to uphold. Any constituent of schools who participate in acts such as joining organizations and reading articles in Philippine society can already be subjected to investigation and surveillance by state forces. Harassment of those who exercise their right to expression in organization has already become rampant. Recently, several people who posted their views on the ineffective handling of the COVID-19 pandemic by the Duterte administration were arrested by state forces. This will only intensify should the ATBP approve. We must push back. Ang mga kabataan po ay hindi papayag kung magpatuloy ang ganitong mga abuso. There is nothing more urgent now, Mr. Speaker, than focusing on protecting the health and well-being of the people, address the backlog on testing, tracing, and validation of cases, ensure expedient government support for food relief and wage subsidies, and uphold freedom and democracy. Never sideline people's voices in all aspects of the pandemic response and recovery plan, because there is no lockdown on rights. Tugunan po natin ang gutom, kahirapan, kawalan ng trabaho at injustisya sa ating bayan. Dahil kailanman ang mga kabataan ay hindi mananahimik sa harap ng matinding abuso, katiwalian, pang-aapi, pagsasamantala, paglabag sa karapatang pantao, at pagyurak sa ating demokrasya at soberanya. Kailanman ay hindi tatalikuran ng kabataan ang gampanin nito bilang mga pag-asa ng bayan. For these reasons, and with our firm resolved never to let the criminalization of dissent and a lockdown on rights be part of the new normal. Kabataan Party List votes no to House Bill 6875.
The Honorable Fortune.
Congressman Fortune, you have 3 minutes to explain your vote. Please proceed.
Thank you. Can I be heard now, Mr. Speaker? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, may mga ilang nag-text at nag-message sa akin kahapon. Nagsasabing, salamat, Kong Lawrence, na ikaw ay nag-withdraw bilang co-author ng anti-terror bill. Masabi ko naman sa kanila, salamat din po na pareho ang ating paninindigan sa panukalang ito. Ngunit mali pong inyong sabihin na ako ay nag-withdraw bilang author nito. Hindi po ako nag-withdraw dahil unang-una, hindi naman po ako naging author ng panukalang ito kahit kailan. The inclusion of my name as author was a mistake, an honest inadvertence on the part of the committee staff. And I thank the Committee on Rules for correcting that mistake and removing my name as author of that measure. Mr. Speaker, I could not have joined as co-author of this measure because I believe that in our fight against terrorism or lawlessness and disorder, it is essential to ensure that basic and fundamental rights and freedoms are preserved and protected. The declaration of policy of the measure emphasizes preservation and protection of life, liberty and property, and the rights and welfare of our people. Regrettably, however, Mr. Speaker, the unconstitutional and ambiguous provisions of this measure will defeat rather than serve its own declaration of policy. I shudder to think of the legitimization of unconstitutional actions, Mr. Speaker. Section 29 allows detention for 14 days, extendable by another 10 days, without any judicial charge should the Anti-Terrorism Council deem it necessary. That is so wide a latitude, even the courts of justice don't have. Biro mo naman, Mr. Speaker, wala ka pang kaso, wala pang sapat na ebidensyang pinipresenta, maaari ka nang ikulong ng halos 1 buwan na hindi kailangan ng kahit anong order mula sa hukuman. This is without doubt an illegal curtailment of liberty and blatant usurpation of judicial functions. And this is a gross violation of the fundamental right against unlawful arrest and reasonable searches and seizures provided for under Article 3, Section 2 of the 1987 Constitution. The proviso says, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall be inviolable, and no warrant of arrest shall issue except upon probable cause to be determined personally by the judge after examination under oath or affirmation of the complainant and the witnesses he may produce, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Mr. Speaker, even during times when the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus is suspended, the Constitution only allows detention of a maximum of 72 hours. Article 7, Section 18 states, during the suspension of the privilege of the writ, any person thus arrested or detained shall be judicially charged within 3 days. Otherwise, he shall be released. Mr. Speaker, equally dangerous and alarming is that this measure seeks to punish by imprisonment of 12 years mere membership in what may be branded as terrorist organization. And because terrorist acts as defined under this measure is too broad and vague, legitimate organizations face the danger of being branded as a terrorist group or allied with a terrorist organization. Section 9 of this measure, Mr. Speaker, is overly and unreasonably broad and can be unduly utilized as a weapon to curtail freedom of the press, of expression, and of dissent. Ang sabi ng ating saligang batas, no law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech, of expression, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. Ito ay napakahalagang karapatan ng ating mga mamamayan, Mr. Speaker, na hindi natin maaaring hayaang may santabi o pagbawalan o harangin sa anumang kaparaanan. Mr. Speaker, the ambiguity of several provisions of this measure and the removal of constitutional parameters on law enforcement expose this measure to abuse. The civil and political rights and the fundamental freedoms of our people are gravely threatened. The measure does not only countenance, Mr. Speaker, but actually seeks to legitimize acts that are clearly violative of our Constitution. For these reasons, Mr. Speaker, I cannot in conscience support this measure. I vote no. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Gaite.
Congressman Ferdinand Gaite, you have 3 minutes to explain your vote. Please proceed, Congressman Gaite.
Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues, isang magandang gabi. Seriously, anti-terror bill in the time of COVID? Seriously? Isang malakas na no ang boto ng kinatawang ito sa House Bill 6875. Ang anti-terror bill o terror bill ay direktang lumalabag sa ating konstitusyon at madaling maabuso ng nasa kapangyarihan para labagin ang ating mga batayang karapatan at kalayahang sibil. Sa ilalim ng House Bill 6875 ay hahayaan ng mga pulis o militar o kahit sinong bigyan ng otorisasyon ng makapangyarihan Anti-Terrorism Council na hulihin at ikulong ng walang warrant of arrest at walang sinampang kaso ng hanggang 24 na araw. Ito ay direktang paglabag sa ating konstitusyon sa Article 7, Section 18 na nagsasabing ang isang inaresto o pinulong na walang kaso sa loob ng 3 araw ay kailangang palayain. Ang pagbibigay kapangyarihan din sa ETC na magbibigay ng otorisasyon sa ilalim ng anti-terror bill ay paglabag rin sa Article 3, Section 2 ng 1987 Constitution na nagsasabing no warrant of arrest shall issue except upon probable cause to be determined personally by the judge. Ang mga probisyon sa panukalang batas na ito ay kinakatakot ng maraming sektor ng ating lipunan na terrorize sila dahil sa overbroad at vague na definition na ito ng terorismo. Pinaparusahan din ang threatening, planning, training, preparing, facilitating, and proposing the commission of terrorism na napakadabo na paraang pagdetermina. Maging ang lehitimong paggampan na sa propesyon ay maaaring sabihin pagbibigay ng material support sa mga terorista. Isipin nyo na lang, mga kasama, sa ilalim ng panukalang batas na ito, ang makasaysayang EDSA People Power noong February 1986 ay maaaring ituring na isang terrorist act. Sa ilalim na anti-terror bill, gagawin itong mas madaling target ang mga progresibong organisasyon, mga ordinaryong individual, at maging ang oposisyon. Mas lalo nitong palalain ang malawakang paglabag sa karapatang pantao na kasalukuyang nagaganap araw-araw sa ating bansa. Nangangamba ang marami dahil sa ilalim ng panukalang batas na ito ang pagtanggal sa mga natitirang tinaguriang safeguards o proteksyon laban sa pang-aabuso sa ilalim ng Human Security Act of 2007. Ngunit ganun pa man, ang Human Security Act, katulad ng anti-terror bill, ay kailangang ibasura sa ngalan ng pagprotekta sa karapatang pantao at kalayahang sibil ng bawat Pilipino. Mr. Speaker, no ang boto ng kinatawang ito. At dapat, instead, seriously, we must address the problems brought about by the COVID pandemic and address the socio-economic, the political, the psychological, and other negative impacts on the people, especially the poor. Sa mga bumoto ng no, kasama ang kinatawang ito, kami nagpapasalamat, pati na rin ang nag-abstain. Kahit sa mga bumoto ng yes, sapagkat sana sa pag naalala natin ang araw na ito, maalala po natin kung sino ang pumanig sa tama sa kasaysayan. Mr. Speaker, no ang boto ng kinatawang ito. Junk terror bill, stop state terrorism. Salamat po, Mr. Speaker. Salamat po sa ating mga esteemed na mga colleagues.
The Honorable Garin Janet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I am definitely against terrorism. I grew up in a province where terrorism has left terrible marks on the people, my family, and even in our communities. However, the proposed measure seems to have taken a rather fast pace. A thorough discussion to avoid abuses has not been exhausted. No amendments were accepted, and while the intention is laudable, failure to instill safeguards can put down a good bill. We have a pandemic. People are losing jobs. Uncertainty lies in the air. People are hungry, clamoring for directions. Certainly the timing is bad, very bad. And certainly there is no reason to rush this proposed bill. Important matter warrants a thorough discussion. Much has been said about a bicameral conference committee, but we all know that this will not happen because we totally adopted the Senate version in toto. Simply said, there is no more bicameral conference committee that will happen. No BICAM members will be elected. We passed the bill as it is, without a thorough discussion being allowed, without amendments being accepted, with the probability that speed will put down the intentions of a very good bill. It would have been better if we used speed and unity in tackling the pandemic. With that, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, much as I am very much against terrorism, I cannot be part of passing a law, a legislative measure, whose good intentions have been drowned because we fail to discuss this very important matter. For this, I vote with my conscience. I vote no.
The Honorable Hataman.
Congress Deputy Speaker Ataman, you have 3 minutes to explain your vote. Deputy Speaker, you may proceed.
Salamat, Mr. Speaker. Magandang gabi po sa ating mga kasama sa Kongreso. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.
Deputy Speaker, nakamute po yata kayo. Parang pakiulit lang po.
Hindi na. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Pakilakas po lang konti, parang mahina.
Sandali lang ko.
Tanggalin ko na ito. Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed, Deputy Speaker.
Unang-una, magandang gabi po, Mr. Speaker, at sa ating mga kasamahan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. May mga nagsasabi po, wala daw dapat ikakaba o ikabahala ang mga hindi terorista. Dahil tanging terorista o mga supporter ng terorista lang ang apektado ng batas na ito. Mr. Speaker, mga kasama, nais ko lang pong lilinawin, wala pa ito sa uso, lumalaban na tayo sa terorismo. Dahil nga po, ang mismong komunidad na pinakamalapit sa akin o mismo ang probinsya na aking kinakatawan, ang pinakanagdurusa dahil dito. Matagal ko na pong itinuturing na misyon sa buhay na matuldukan ang salot ng terorismo. Maraming terorista na itinuring akong kaaway. Sa katunayan, Mr. Speaker, marami tayong mga pagtatangka, pananakot, na natanggap na liham mula sa mga terorista. Pero sa mga probisyong nabasa ko, na naman ko ang kayaan niyong linawin ko kung bakit, Mr. Speaker. Mga kasama, Mr. Speaker, magkakasundo naman siguro ang lahat ng kasapi ng kamarang ito. Ang batas, inaakda natin para sundin ng lahat, para ipatupad ng patas, para sumalamin sa pagkakapantay-pantay ng bawat mamamayan. Kung gayon, Mr. Speaker, hindi pwedeng malabnaw ang probisyon ng batas. Hanggat maari, ayaw natin ito maging open to interpretation. Ayaw nating ipatupad sa iba't ibang paraan. Depende sa huwisyo ng pagpapatupad. Depende sa politika niya o depende sa ganda ng gising niya sa araw na iyon. Ayaw nating maabuso ang batas. Kaya ang kailangan isang batas na matibay, malinaw at walang puwang sa misinterpretation. Subalit ang batas na ito, Mr. Speaker, ay nakakalungkot dahil hindi po natin binukas sa ating mga kasama. Yan ang natutuhan ko sa sariling kasaysayan at karanasan namin bilang isang Muslim, bilang isang Moro. Ang masaklap nga, hindi ko nakikita ang linaw at tibay ng batas na tinatalakay ngayon. Ang mas masaklap pa, parang nakalimutan yata ng anti-terrorism bill. Kadalasan, ang karaniwang tao ang nakakaramdam ng tunay na terror. Kadalasan, galing sa mga nasa poder at kadalasan habang nagkukubli sa mga konsepto ng kaayusan at batas. Mr. Speaker, tandaan sana natin, terror ang nararamdaman ng napakaraming salinlahi ng mga Moro. Habang napilitan silang lisanin ang tahanan, habang tinugis sila ng bala at bomba para sa isang digmaan di nila ginusto. Terror ang nararamdaman ng dalagang Moro tuwing babastusin siya dahil lang may suot siyang hijab. Terror ang nararamdaman ng binatang Muslim o Moro tuwing ibubuli siya o tutuksuhin dahil humaharap siya sa Mecca ng ilang beses sa isang araw para manalangin. Terror ang patuloy na nararamdaman ng bawat Muslim sa tuwing pipigilan siya sa mga checkpoint at paparatangan o aarestuhin dahil lang may kahawig siya ng pangalan o dahil sa kanyang itsura, pananamit o pananalita. Sa pagtalakay ng batas na ito, may isang bagay na luminaw sa akin, Mr. Speaker. Mas pinahalagahan sa panukala ang pagpapalawak ng saklaw ng kung sino ang pwedeng ituring na terorista kesa pagtukoy at paghuli sa totoong mga terorista. Inilagay ng batas na ito sa kamay ng isang anti-terrorism council ang kapangyarihan na magtalaga kung sino ang terorista. Dapat nasa kamay ng korte ito at ng mga independent individual at hindi ng mga appointee sa politikal na pwesto. Hindi ba lalo lang nitong pinaiigting ang pangamba na pwedeng gamitin ang batas na ito para siilin ang makalaban sa sa politika ng sinumang nasa poder. At sakaling ang mahuli ng isang taong inosente, ano ang maasahan niya? Kahit walang warrant, pwede siyang ma-detain ng 24 na araw nang hindi dinadala sa korte. Tinanggal din ng panukalang ito ang 500,000 pesos na kabayaran kada araw ng pagkakakulong para sa maling pag-aaresto, mistaken identity, wrongful detention, o kahit pa ba planted evidence. In this sense, the bill sends a clear message to enforcers. Arrest anyone you want, anyway wala namang bayad kung magkamali ka. Ididiin ko rin, Mr. Speaker, walang eksperto mula sa hanay ng mga Muslim. Kaming mga pinakaapektado sa mga implikasyon ng batas na ito. Ang inimbita sa mga committee hearing, dito man sa Kamara o sa Senado. Wala galing sa National Commission on Muslim Filipinos. Wala galing sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. Wala galing sa alinmang civil society organization. Wala galing sa mga ulama o religious sector. Kung hindi man lang tinanong ang mga ekspertong Muslim, paano isasalamin ng panukalang ito ang realidad ng mga komunidad? Mr. Speaker, mga kasama, gusto kong linawin sa lahat, ayoko ng terorismo. Mali ang terorismo. Ito mismo ang nagpapahirap sa marami nating kababayan at gumatong sa walang hanggang siklo ng karahasan, pang-aabuso at kahirapan. Walang puwang para sa terorismo, sa banta ng terorismo sa isang sibilisadong bayan. Kaya nga, pilit ko ring hinahanap ano naman ang mga probisyon para tugunan ang terorismo. Sa dinadami ng mga probisyon para palawin ang inilaan lang nito para sa isang programa ng counter-violent extremism, tumataginting ang para hindi ba dapat na doon ang natin. Mr. Speaker, coming from Basilan, malinaw sa akin ang pangangailangan na masugpo ang terorismo at violent extremism. Sa Basilan, napundar ang Abu Sayyaf. Sa Basilan din ang operasyon ng Abu Sayyaf. Kami ang madalas na biktima ng terorismo. Kami ang nakikidnap, nasusunugan, namamatayan ng kamag-anak kapag may terrorist attack. Sa kabila nito, noong nakipag-ugnayan at nakipagtulungan sa iba't ibang sektor para subuin ang Abu Sayyaf, nakita namin may paraan para magbago sila, may paraan para magbalik loob sila sa lipunan, may paraan para kumbinsi sila talikuran ang terorismo. At hindi laging barilan o pag-aaresto ang paraan na ito. Pwedeng daanin sa development, sa dialogue, sa pag-aaruga sa mga komunidad, maayos na pamamahala at maayos na edukasyon para umangat ang antas ng pag-isip at hindi mahulog sa kamay ng mga recruiter ang kabataan. These methods, Mr. Speaker, these reform measures are among the pillars of counterterrorism. I would hazard to say, Mr. Speaker, na ayon sa mahaba kong karanasan sa paglaban sa terorismo, natutuhan ko ang pinaka-epektibong pamamaraan ay higit pa sa pagkidigma, pagpaparusa o hagupit ng dahas na sa tamang pakikipag-usap, pakikipag-ugnayan, bubukas ng loob at pag-aaruga ang susi sa pagpigil sa terorismo. None of these measures are present in this bill. Mr. Speaker, uulitin ko, this law is not meant to combat terrorism. It is meant to give the state the power to tag whomever they please as a terrorist. Hindi pa ba tayo natuto? Pag-iit sa puwera, pagpapabaya, pang-aapi, pang-aabuso, paniniil sa karapatan at kalayaan. Ito ang tunay na nagtulak sa ilan tungo sa violent extremism. Sana nga ay mamulat ang lahat. Kung ganito kalabnaw at kalawak ang mga provision, kung ganito kadaling ma-misinterpret o maabuso ang nakasaad sa batas, baka lalo lang mapalala ng batas na ito kesa maampat o mapigilan ang terorismo. Sa ngalan ng aking nasasakupan sa distrito ng Basilan at sa ngalan ng bawat Moro na naparatangan, na aresto at init sa puwera dahil lang sa aming pagkamoro, sa ngalan ng lahat ng tunay na karamdam ng terror, ng hidwaan at pangapi, sinasabi ko, hindi ito ang paraan, hindi matutuganan ng batas na ito ang terorismo. Bumuboto po ako ng no. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Hernandez.
Yes, partner. Okay. Hindi, I'm good. Magkano pa ako?
Ito ata dalawa pa.
Yeah, we're good.
This one, wala na rin.
Deputy Speaker Hernandez, you have 3 minutes to explain your vote. You recognize now.
Yes, boss. Yes, boss.
DS Dinan.
Sabi ni Sir.
Yes, Dinan Hernandez. Secgen.
The Honorable Lagman.
Congressman Lagman is recognized. You have 3 minutes to explain your vote. Please proceed po.
Mr. Speaker, can I be heard loud and clear?
Opo, please proceed po.
Before I explain my negative vote, I would like to ask the House leadership to explain why I was not allowed to interpellate the sponsors of House Bill 6875 last night, despite the fact that I seasonably registered my intention to interpellate, and I was assured that I was number 3 in the list of interpellators. Many more were allowed to interpellate, and Section 54 of Rule 10 of the House Rules was not even enforced. When I complained that I was not being called to interpellate, I was told to call the majority leader, but the majority leader could not be reached. If a member of the independent opposition is discriminated against in a parliamentary body like this chamber, how can we expect the new anti-terrorism law to be enforced with due respect to human rights and civil liberties of our citizens? Mr. Speaker, I vote an emphatic no to this new Anti-Terror Act for the following overriding reasons. 1, it institutes draconian measures of utmost severity, hitherto unknown to penal legislation. Let me repeat, hitherto unknown to penal legislations, like the following. A, authorizing detention without warrant of arrest for a maximum period of 24 days of the suspected terrorist instead of the present day maximum of only 3 days. No less than the Constitution in Section 18 of Article 7 provides that, and I quote, during the suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus, any person thus arrested or detained shall be judicially charged within 3 days. Otherwise, he shall be released. The fundamental law sets the standard of 3 days, even in the severest of circumstances when the writ of habeas corpus is suspended. The 24-day maximum period provided for in House Bill 6875 under ordinary times is 8 times longer than the standard set by the Constitution. It is no excuse that other countries prescribe longer periods of detention because we should not follow countries who have a less democratic history and do not have similar provisions in their constitutions protective of human rights and fundamental freedoms. B, authorizing wiretapping of suspected terrorists for a maximum period of 90 days is a repugnant amendment to the anti-wiretapping law, the Public Act 4200. C, authorizing the Anti-Money Laundering Council, AMLA, to pry into the bank accounts of suspected terrorists, groups, and persons without a court order by freezing such accounts for 20 days, which period can be extended to 6 months by the Court of Appeals, is another repugnant amendment, this time to the law of secrecy of bank deposits. D, a preliminary order of prescription of alleged terrorist organizations has no terminal duration during the pendency of the proceedings before the Court of Appeals. Even a temporary restraining order issued by the Court of Appeals presently is only effective for 60 days. E. Red tagging of groups of persons is encouraged, facilitated, and legalized. And F. The penalties imposed are utterly severe and disproportionate to the lighter offenses defined in the proposed new Anti-Terrorism Act. 2. Safeguards for the protection of human rights and civil liberties enshrined in the Human Security Act of 2007 have been deleted or diluted. Mr. Speaker, I was a member 13 years ago of the Bicameral Conference Committee, which fought for and succeeded in putting in place this important protection to human rights and civil liberties. Now, they are being eroded, washed, and thrown away in this new anti-terror law. Unfortunately, there will be no bicameral conference for this measure because the House version is a complete replica of the Senate version. And this was designed in order to foreclose a bicameral conference committee and expedite the passage of this repressive act. It is no consolation at all that Section 4 of House Bill number 6875 provides that, and I quote, terrorism as defined in this section shall not include advocacy, protest, dissent, establishment of work, industrial or mass action, and other similar exercises of civil and political rights. Because this safeguard is mere lip service, since it is eroded by the subsequent proviso which reads, and I quote, which are not intended to cause death or serious physical harm to a person, to endanger a person's life, or to create a serious risk to public safety, unquote. This dangerous quadrilla can always be used by arresting and prosecuting officers to undermine the supposed safeguard by alleging the opposite of the provision. 3. This bill contains vague and nebulous provisions which are so ambiguous and whose implementation is given to the sole discretion of arresting officers or to the Anti-Terror Council or the AMLA, which are adjuncts of the executive. For all the foregoing reasons, Mr. Speaker, I vote no.
Honorable Paduano.
Congressman Paduano, you're recognized. You have 3 minutes to explain your vote. Congressman Paduano, wala po. Check Chen.
Honorable Reyes.
Congressman Reyes, you have 3 minutes to explain your vote.
Mr. Speaker, we agree with the intent of this bill in that it seeks to prevent the proliferation of terrorism and acts connected therewith. However, there is a clear possibility of violation of the constitutionally guaranteed rights of every person. My conscience and my moral compass dictates that I vote no to any measure that curtails these rights. This representation strongly believes that the determination whether a person or a group of persons is indeed a terrorist or is involved in terrorism is and should be a judicial function. all those charged or suspected of participating in terrorist acts should be afforded at least an opportunity, whether in a summary hearing or otherwise, to present his or her vote. The fact that the Anti-Terrorism Council is composed of 9 members of the executive branch with authority to freeze assets, detain persons, and conduct surveillance and wiretaps is clearly unconstitutional. Even in cases of money laundering, it is the Court of Appeals that issues a freeze order on assets on any alleged violator and not an executive agency. We emphasize the need to protect the constitutionally guaranteed rights of every person, as well as those granted by other international human rights agreements, to which the Philippines is a signatory, and even those which are considered customary in international laws. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Sangkopan.
Mr. Speaker,
Please proceed, Congresswoman Sangkopan. You have 2 minutes to express your vote po.
thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. We in Anak Mindanao Party List are against terrorism and support any government efforts to put an end to any act of terror. However, we vote no to House Bill number 6875 that repeals the existing Human Security Act of 2007. Because of the unimaginable sufferings this piece of legislation may cause to individuals, groups, communities, and ethnicities out of sheer terrorist tagging. For years after the 9/11 attack, Islamophobia worsened. Muslims have been negatively stereotyped as terrorists that has resulted in bias, discrimination, and marginalization. It is a brand that we Muslims strive to change each day, hoping that someday we shall walk and share this earth with you as equals. But with the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, this monstrous and evil legislation not only violates constitutional guarantees, but it also tramples almost every known article under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And while we, the Filipino Muslims and members of the indigenous peoples, remain unprotected from the prejudice and the Islamophobic adherence with the non-passage of a law that will prohibit discrimination on account of ethnic and religious affiliation, this bill will unjustifiably broaden the influence of the already heavy-handed military and police forces through the extension of their surveillance power, including wiretapping and recording our conversations, effecting warrantless arrests more than 3 days and prolonging detention periods up to 14 days. It also suspends the 500,000 per day penalty against wrongful arrest and imprisonment. Time and again, we have felt these oppressions when the PNP reportedly did the noble act of issuing a memorandum that orders the profiling of all Muslim high school students in Metro Manila. They say it is their way of strengthening peace building and to counter violent extremism by summarization directed only against our kind. Time and again, we have felt these oppressions when a miner and a farmer from Mako, Davao de Oro were eating balot in downtown Tagum when they were accosted and accused of being thieves by soldiers. For days they were beaten and tortured until they were made to dig their own graves, poured crude oil on their bodies, set them on fire, and left them for dead. Time and again, we have felt these oppressions when we were driven out of our homelands because of an ensuing war that is not of our making. Time and again, we have felt these oppressions when we are bullied because of the way we dress and how we exercise our religion. Surely the passage of House Bill 6875 will embolden more oppressors who will wield its power under the cloak of an anti-terrorism council. Kaming mga Moro at Lumad ang madalas na unang biktima ng tunay na terorismo, hindi lamang sa bansang ito, kundi sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo. At sa pagpapatupad ng batas na ito, naniniwala po kami, madadagdagan lamang nito ang pagpapahirap at pang-aabuso sa tulad naming nahuhusgahan ng mga terorista bago pa man malaman ang aming mga pangalan o makita ang aming mga mukha. This law is not the way to combat terrorism, but a way to further incite people to resort to violence. Kalaki po ng aking pagboto bilang representative ng Anak Mindanao, aming parties, ang aking dasal na naway patnubayan tayo ng Panginoon sa ating desisyon magpapabago sa buhay ng napakaraming tao. I vote no to House Bill 6875. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker.
Again. Again.
The Honorable Suntay.
Congressman Bong Suntay, you have 3 minutes to explain your vote.
Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues, as the House of Representatives moves to repeal the Human Security Act of 2007 and proposes to enact a newly minted Bill on Terrorism, this representation is constrained to highlight certain provisions which, in my careful and judicious study, would seriously impinge on the human rights and fundamental freedom of every single Filipino. While I believe that it is imperative for Congress to enact a law which protects the state and its people against terrorists or acts of terrorism, it is important that the legislation we pass that does not confer a license for agents of the government to trample upon the more precious gifts that the Constitution affords in our Bill of Rights. As chairman of the House Committee on Human Rights, I cannot in conscience support the measure that seeks to empower agents of the government to take custody of a person upon mere suspicion of committing any acts defined and penalized under sections 4 to 12 of this Act. For a period of 14 days, which may further be extended for an additional 10 days without any judicial order or determination of probable cause, as proposed in Section 29 of this House Bill, without incurring any criminal liability. This is a clear and blatant violation of Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution, which provides for our right to life, liberty, and property. And Article 3, Section 2, which states, among others, that no search warrant or warrant of arrest shall issue except upon probable cause to be determined personally by the judge after examination under oath or affirmation of the complainant and the witnesses he may produce. While the state's exercise of its police power is an accepted limitation to the exercise of individual rights, as decided by the Supreme Court in the case of Philippine Association of Service Exporters versus Dillon, still, it must be emphasized that in a constitutional government like ours, liberty is the rule and restraint is the exception. Thus, restrictions in the exercise of the fundamental liberties are heavily guarded to ensure that there will be no unreasonable interference on the free exercise of constitutional guarantees. The right of the state to prosecute is not a carte blanche. It does not and should not authorize government agents to defy and disregard the rights of its citizens under the Constitution. In addition, it is my firm belief that individual rights enshrined in the Philippine Constitution can never be modified, amended, or supervened by a simple legislation of Congress. For this reason, I vote no. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Vergara.
Congresswoman Vergara, you have 3 minutes to explain your vote. Please proceed, Congresswoman Ria. You have 3 minutes po.
Can you hear me, Mr. Speaker?
Opo, malinaw po kayo, Congresswoman. Please proceed
Magandang
po.
gabi po. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker. Ako po ay sang-ayon sa panawagan ng ating Pangulo kasama ni Secretary Lorenzana at Secretary Anyo na protektahan ang ating bayan laban sa terorismo. I cannot stress enough our unified sentiment that this matter is of the highest priority, especially for all of us in government. Our country has faced threats from terrorist groups whose selfish acts bring nothing but violent disruptions to our peaceful way of life. Nakita natin ito sa Marawi. Through our respective mandates, our democratic government has since endeavored to protect our people from the viciousness of terrorist activities. I believe we have existing laws in place to fight terrorism. The placing of Mindanao under martial law is evident of our capability to act in unity to defeat a common enemy. As legislators, we propose and pass laws that will address any and all threats that would destabilize our country. However, while we now aggressively seek to protect our people against the threat of terrorism, we unfortunately run the risk of violating the fundamental right of every Filipino to a safe and comfortable life where due process and democratic freedoms are fiercely upheld. Hence, it is incumbent upon us to exercise the necessary caution and prudence in considering such measures that could threaten, among others, the right to free speech, which allows us to air our grievances in a peaceful manner without fear of reprisal from those whose views are contrary to ours. We must remain vigilant that the laws we pass are anchored on the fundamental values enshrined in our Constitution. Without further refinement and consideration, the provisions of the proposed Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 are at risk of unbridled interpretation that could do more harm than good to the very population we aim to protect. Dasal ko na magkaroon ng pagbabago ng pananaw ang mga kinatuan na bumubuo ng Bicameral Committee, bigyan ng pagkakataon na maamendahan ang mga kritikal na bahagi ng panukaling ito na maaaring maabuso. Sa ganitong paraan ay panatili nating matatag ang ating demokrasyang patuloy na pinaglalaban. In light of this, Mr. Speaker, I vote no. Maraming salamat. God bless the Philippines.
The Honorable Zarate.
Congressman Zarate, you recognize. You have 3 minutes po.
Salamat, Mr. Speaker. Bago po ako magpaliwanag sa aking boto, meron lang po akong parliamentary inquiry or point of order, if I may say so. Napansin ko po, nagbotohan na tayo, pero wala ho akong nakitang kopya nung bill na ating inaproba on third reading, Mr. Speaker. So, ano po ba ang pinagbotohan natin dito?
Actually, Congressman Zarate, they give the copy last June 1st in our office 2 times, and this is now the explanation of vote, Congressman Zarate.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, but before I will explain my vote, it has to be settled whether or not I voted for something or not.
Session suspended. Sessions resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, as to the query of the Honorable Zarate regarding House Bill 6875, the majority notes through the Secretary General that copies of the said committee report after the discussion during yesterday's hearing was distributed right after to the respective offices of all the members of the House of Representatives. It was also emailed to the email address of the honorable members as well as the all Viber group, wherein we check our agenda for the session, especially for today's session, Mr. Speaker. And the copies was distributed yesterday as there was no amendment, Mr. Speaker, since this is the original version, and no amendment was taken into consideration. So this is the same version of the said House bill, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you for that answer, Mr. Speaker, from the floor leader. But I checked also my Viber. What was in my Viber, Mr. Speaker, was a copy of the committee report for second reading. Under the rules, kailangan talaga na yung committee report kasama ang panukalang batas for second reading ay may distribute sa ating mga kasamahan dahil ito ang pagdidebatehan at ito ang tatalakayin. But also, it was stated under our rules na pagkatapos ng second reading ay dapat magkaroon ng bagong kopya at ito ay pamamahagi sa ating mga kasamahan at ito ang pagbobotohan. At ito po, I'll check the Viber, there is no new version, whether or not that's the exact copy of the bill coming from the Senate or approved in the committee report. We should be given a new copy for third reading for our study and consideration. No? We have to look at the final bill for third reading. Hindi ho pwedeng sabihin na ito rin yung second reading. Kailangan may kumpara natin ang kopya ng second reading and third reading para there was a purpose why. Para maiwasan natin na mayroong isiningit sa kopya ng second reading and third reading. And that is what is absent here, Mr. Speaker.
So what the majority leader told us that, number one, he emailed the House Bill number 6875. Number two, he delivered in our offices. And number three, dalawa lang, di ba? Only two. To all members, distributed to all members.
Mr. Speaker,
and
the majority
emailed to all members.
The majority maintains that the committee report submitted was the version that we approved yesterday. And right after the discussion during yesterday's plenary session, after we ended at 11:59, it was right after delivered to each of the members' offices, the Viber group, as well as the email address. So we maintain, the majority maintains that this is the said bill that we are discussing here today, Mr. Speaker.
We cannot rely on that, Mr. Speaker, if I may say, because what was delivered was the same copy attached in the committee report for second reading. Ang third reading copy po natin ay ganito, no? As a matter of form and tradition. Why? Kailangan maikumpara natin ang third reading copy and second reading. Kasi kung mayroong pagbabago, ay madali ho nating makita. Yan po ang purpose niyan. So kung ang ibinigay po ay the same copy attached to the committee report, that is not, I submit, the form required under our rules, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader?
Yes, again to echo the response, Mr. Speaker. There was no amendments made. So if the concern of the Honorable Zarate, if word per word, if it is the said House bill that we are discussing today, it is the same one, Mr. Speaker.
Session suspended.
Except when the President certifies to the So ito ang requirement, pero exception pag nag-certify si President. So certified ka na, may certification, alam na natin.
Pero on top of the diligence that were made in this
particular section,
we take note that this is also
tama
certified.
yung requirements. Pero dahil certified as urgent.
Pwede nga tuloy lang.
Okay, so vote mo na lang.
Thank you.
Session resume. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The majority is aware of the stated facts of the Honorable Zarate. However, it is also noted that this bill is certified urgent by the President. And as to our Section 58 of our rules, under third reading, no bill or joint resolution shall become law unless it passes 3 readings on separate days, and printed copies thereof in its final form are distributed to the members 3 days before its passage, except when the President certifies to the necessity of its immediate enactment to meet a public calamity or emergency. So again, Mr. Speaker, this bill is certified as urgent. All copies were submitted, and this is the same bill that we are tackling, Mr. Speaker.
Final note, Mr. Speaker. The fact that the bill was certified as urgent will not excuse or dismiss the fact that there is a required form for a bill to be printed and submitted for votation. No? So ako po ay naniniwala na hindi pwedeng ang kopya on second reading ay yun din ang ipamimigay sa mga miyembro para pagbubutuhan. At yun ang itinatala ko sa kapulungang ito, no, for the record, na walang ibinigay na third reading copy ayon sa ating forms as practice in the House. No? At ang ibinigay, as admitted by the floor leader, ay the same copy attached to that committee report. And I submit that even if it was certified, that should not dispense the requirement of the House that a printed copy for third reading shall have been distributed to the members.
Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. We understand the manifestation of the Honorable Zarate, but again, we maintain and insist that because this bill is certified urgent and that all copies were distributed, and this is the same bill and no amendments were made, we insist, Mr. Speaker, that we are tackling the same bill and the manifestation of the Honorable Zarate is noted.
So we
Thank
are
you,
in the
Mr.
process of explanation of vote. Congressman Zarate, you have 3 minutes to explain your vote.
Salamat, Ginoong Speaker. Ang kinatawang ito ay nagpapahayag ng isang mariing pagboto ng no sa new anti-terror bill or not bill. Sumasadsad na sa pinakamababang antas ang pagturing ng administrasyong ito sa karapatang pantao. Mas mababa pa kaysa sa ginawa ng panahon ng diktador ni Marcos sa panahon ng martial law. Kung noong panahon ng diktador na si Marcos ay may pagkukunwari at pagtanggi pa sa paglabag sa karapatang pangtao ang rehimen ni Marcos, ngayon ay pinagmamalaki at walang kahiyang isinasabatas ang paglabag sa karapatang pantao ng mismong mga opisyal at ng gobyernong ito. Ang Kongreso bilang isang institusyon sa pagtupad nito sa mandato na pagbalangkas ng batas ay may tungkuling itaguyod ang pinakamataas na batas sa ating bayan, ang ating konstitusyon o ang ating saligang batas. Dahil dyan, anumang batas na may potensyal na sumagasa sa batayang karapatang pantao na nakasaad sa ating saligang batas ay nararapat lamang na busisiin at hadlangan kung lalabag na sa mga probisyong ito. Pero, Ginoong Speaker, dahil nga daw sa pag-certify bilang urgent bill ni Pangulong Duterte sa new anti-terror bill, ang pagpasa rin ng Kongreso nito nang hindi na pinag-uusapan at pinagdebatehan ng maigi at masinsinan sa level man ng komite at maging dito sa plenaryo, ay lumalabas na nagmistulang isang rubber stamp ang Kongresong ito ng ehekutibo. Makikita sa pagratsada ng pagpasa nito sa Kongreso, kahit na nasa gitna tayo ng krisis na dala ng pandemya ng COVID, ang obsesyon ng Administrasyong Duterte na isentralisa nito sa sarili ang dagdag pang mga drakoniko o draconian measures or powers kahit labag ito sa ating saligang batas. Panukala pa lamang ito, Ginoong Speaker, pero nagsisilbi na itong panakot at pangharas laban sa mga may pagtutol sa mga di makatao at di mahihirap na mga patakaran ng kasalukuyang administrasyon. Katunayan, kapapasa pa lang nito noong Biyernes sa Level Committee ay agad naglabasan sa social media ang red tagging at vilification laban sa mga kritiko ng administrasyon. Hindi pa man ito pumapasa, ginagamit na ang framework nito upang ikondisyon ang isip ng ating publiko laban sa mga aktivista, sa mga kritiko ng administrasyon at maging sa oposisyon at sa mga simpleng may puna sa administrasyon. Panukalang batas pa lamang ito, pero nagdudulot na ito ng chilling effect sa publiko. Sa esensya, Ginoong Speaker, ang new anti-terror bill ay tahasang unconstitutional dahil sasagasaan nito ang Bill of Rights, papahinain nito ang proteksyon laban sa abuso sa paggamit ng batas or weaponization of law, at papapalawakin ang kapangyarihan ng ehekutibo sa paghagbol sa mga itinituring nitong mga terorista at magagawaing terituring nitong terorismo. Malaki ang panganib sa pinalawak na definisyon ng terorismo na kahit sino, kahit ordinaryong mamamayan na nag-post ng kanyang pagtingin sa social media ay maaaring ituring ng pamahalaan na terorista kung nanaisin ito. Huwag nang banggitin pa, Ginoong Speaker, ang magiging turing ng administrasyon sa mga aktivista na sa kasalukuyan ay hindi pa pasado ang panukala ay kinukulong na at pinapatay. Pinalawak rin ng bagong batas para sa terorismo ang kapangyarihan ng Anti-Terrorism Council na magmumukhang isang hunta upang gumampan ng tungkulin na dapat ay eksklusibo labang sa mga korte. Pinalaki ang kapangyarihan ng kapulisan at maging ng mga militar ng manghuli kahit walang warrant sa batayan lamang ng suspisyon, at pinapayagan ang pagkulong sa mga suspitsado pa lamang na terorista lagpas sa pinahihintulutan ng ating saligang batas sa mga nahuling may warrant o nahuli sa akto na gumagawa ng krimen. Pinapalawig din ito ang pagmamanman ng pamahalaan at state forces sa mga suspetsado pa lamang na mga terorista. Wala halos proteksyon, Ginoong Speaker, laban sa abuso ng kapangyarihan. Hindi nito pinaparusahan ang malisyosong pagkuha ng otoridad mula sa korte para sa surveillance. Ganun din ang pagtanggi na isurrender ang nakuhang materyales o kahit ang mga assets na na-freeze. Ito ay isang panukalang batas na lulusaw sa ating demokrasya dahil layo nitong pigilan at patahimikin ang kritisismo, pagtutol at paglaban ng mamamayan laban sa abuso ng pamahalaan na isang saligang pundasyon ng ating demokrasya. Kaya, Ginoong Speaker, mariin ang pagtutol at lalabanan ng bayan muna ang paglapastangan sa karaparatang pantao at sa mala batas militar ng mga panukalang batas at pamumuno. Ang panukalang batas na ito, Ginoong Speaker, ay terorismo sa karapatang pantao at terorismo sa ating demokrasya. Terorismo ng Estado ang panukalang batas na ito. Kaya dapat i-junk ang terror bill na ito. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Speaker.
Section.
The Honorable Crisologo.
Congressman Onyx Crisologo is recognized. You have 3 minutes to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we all know that terrorism is a problem, not just in our country, but all over the world. We should do everything that we can in our power to fight anyone who may cause problems in our country. Although I am convinced that this measure is important to protect life, liberty, and property from terrorism, I am also inclined to abstain from its passage. The proposed legislation is likely to cause fear to our citizens as it unwittingly gives law enforcement agencies the opportunity to harass citizens who might voice their dissents against the government. There are also provisions that should be clarified further, particularly Section 4A of House Bill number 6875. Under this provision, a person who kills, seriously injures, or endangers another may be tagged as a terrorist, when in fact his offense may only be classified as homicide or serious physical injuries. Homicide and serious physical injuries are already penalized under Articles 249 and 263 of the revised Penal Code. There must be a qualifying circumstance, Mr. Speaker, of the killing or inflicting of serious body injury to consider them within the ambit of terrorism. Section 29 also is vague as it deals with warrantless arrest, which should be used against our citizens who are free in this country. While we support the campaign of the government to combat terrorism, this representation also supports the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the rights of Filipino citizens to petition the government for a redress of grievance through peaceful means. Let us further peruse this measure to create a policy that has a very specific provision to prevent misconstructions. With the current pressing issues that threaten the safety and health of our citizens, especially in this time, I reckon it best just to focus on the fight against the current and biggest cause of terror in our country at the moment, which is the COVID-19 virus. With that, Mr. Speaker, this representation abstains from voting on House Bill 6875. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Defensor Michael.
The Honorable Michael Defensor is recognized. You have 3 minutes to explain your vote.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Una po sa lahat, ang batas po nito ay talagang kailangan. Maraming mga bansa sa buong mundo ang gumawa na ng mga anti-terror bill. At kung mabibigyan sana ng pagkakataon, napakaganda at it would be an honor and privilege to be an author of an anti-terror bill. Ang problema, Mr. Speaker, dito po sa ating bill na to, marami na napaliwanag ang ating mga kasama, ngunit nais ko lang pong bigyan ng isang maliit na ehemplo. Kunyari po, ikaw ay isang negosyante. Nung ako po ay nasa Department of Housing, marami po mga housing developers. At madalas nangyari, Mr. Speaker, naiipit po sila sa isang sitwasyon na hinihingan sila ng mga ibang mga puwersa labas sa gobyerno. Natural lamang po, Mr. Speaker, na sila po'y nagbibigay upang wag na rin madisturbo ang kanilang negosyo. Dito po sa batas na to, sa ganitong sitwasyon, maaari po sila kaagad hulihin. Maaari po kaagad na ipitin ang kanilang pondo sa bangko. Kaya, Mr. Speaker, bagamat napakaganda ng batas, marami po siyang mga probisyon na hindi po naaayon sa ating saligang batas. Binanggit na po kanina, Mr. Speaker, ng marami nating mga kasama ang Section 25, yung pong designation. Dito po, pag ikaw ay sinabing terorista, wala ka pong paraan para depensahan ang iyong sarili. Hindi kayo hinihingan ng pagkakataon na ipagtanggol ang iyong sarili. Meron po sa kanya Section 26, bagamat ito po'y nasa korte, kahit pa paano binibigyan siya pagkakataon may pagtanggol ang sarili niya, ngunit katulad din po ng mga nabanggit, wala po itong proseso na kinikilala ang iyong karapatan. Section 29, Mr. Speaker, binanggit na po to, maaari kang arestuhin. In fact, kanina ho, nakapag-usap kami ng ating mga kasama, Honorable Suntay, sabi niya, hindi lang probable cause, suspected lang, pwede ka na ring hulihin at pwede kang i-detain. Mr. Speaker, nakakalungkot dahil ito po ay isang urgent bill. At maaari po itong pumasa sa atin sa Senado, sa Kongreso. Pero ako po'y naniniwala at sinisigurado kong hindi po ito papasa sa ating pong Korte Suprema. Because primarily, Mr. Speaker, again, I reiterate, it violates our Bill of Rights. It violates our right to due process. And it violates so many other rights that within this bill, mukha pong hindi ho nakita mga bagay na to na bagamat kailangan ang terror bill, bagamat kinikilala ko na ito po hindi lang para sa atin kundi sa buong mundo, hindi po ata natugunan ang mga problemang ito, ang mga probisyon na kailangang respetuhin natin sa ilalim ng saligang batas. Kaya Mr. Speaker, sa pagkakataon po ito, ipagpaumanhin ng ating administrasyon, ipagpaumanhin ng ating sandataang lakas, ako po ay bumoboto ng abstain sa bill na to. Maraming salamat po.
Secretary General.
The Honorable Dimaporo Abdullah.
Congressman Dimaporo Abdullah is recognized. You have 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed po.
Sir, can you hear me?
Opo, sige po.
Oh. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to explain my position. Last night, I was not given time to clarify my apprehensions. So now, Mr. Speaker, I choose to abstain from voting. Mr. Speaker, I fear that the bill, rather than reducing the number of terrorists and their supporters, it may challenge them and their numbers might increase, especially if the police mishandle the suspected supporters and terrorists. It is better, Mr. Speaker, for us to give more budget to Secretary Dad of the Department of Agriculture to develop agribusiness in the rural areas where the majority of the terrorists and their supporters are. Let us fight poverty more intensively, Mr. Speaker, to reduce the number of the terrorists and their supporters, to help the Balik Provincia program, and to reduce sending cheap labor abroad. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Again.
The Honorable Del Mar.
Congressman Raul Del Mar, you have 2 minutes to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
I voted yes, with reservation. I said that I will be submitting a written explanation. But since I have this opportunity, may I just briefly say, Mr. Speaker, that I voted yes because I am for the strongest anti-terrorist bill that we can make, because it is a world menace. But saying that, I cannot also do that at the expense of violating the Constitution. So I just summarize by saying that I vote yes, except to the provisions of the measure that will be violative of the Constitution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Biazon.
Congressman Rufi Biazon, you have 3 minutes to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
Since my first term as congressman in 2001, anti-terrorism has always been my advocacy because I believe the state should be capacitated to fight this scourge, not just here in our country, but one that is wreaking havoc all over the world. That's why whenever bills that are filed concerning the security of our country is taken up, I actively participate and I actively analyze and assess its necessity for our country. I have stood on many issues in my 5 terms in Congress, and when I stand on an issue, it is all with my entire heart and mind, and I vote on principle. So if I make a stand on a certain issue, it is not because there is pressure, it is not because there is a reward, but it is because it is what I believe in. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I stood up, I defended the bill wholeheartedly. I defended what I believed in my mind was what we needed. But always, Mr. Speaker, I always put 2 things together. One is with regard to the security of the state and the nation, and of course, also the individual rights of Filipinos. Civil rights and political rights are also prioritized by this representation. Kahapon po, Mr. Speaker, habang nagdedepensa ako ng panukalang batas na ito, nabanggit ko dun sa isa nating kasamahan ang aking willingness at bukas na loob na tumanggap ng mga proposed amendments. Kaya po naman sinasabi natin na dapat ito ay mapagbigyan ng pagkakataon ang mga members of the House na magbigay ng kanilang input. I defended the bill with all my mind, but my heart was divided. Mr. Speaker, yung ating inaaprubahan na panukalang batas ngayon ay isang adoption of a Senate version. Hindi po natin masabi na ang ating mga kasamahan na mga kongresista ay nakapagbigay ng kanilang inputs para po mabigay natin ang isang panukalang batas na masasabing nanggaling talaga mismo sa House of Representatives. Sa aking 5 termino bilang congressman, yan pong pinaniniwalaan ko na ang House of Representatives bilang mga direktang kinatawan ng mga mamamayan ay dapat mabigyan ng pagkakataon na gumawa ng isang batas na nanggaling mismo sa kanilang mga nasasakupan. Dahil po dito, nakita natin na may mga argumento na maaring pagbigyan. Pagbigyan na marinig at kung sakali ay ma-adapt. Ako po'y nananatiling naniniwala na kailangan natin ang isang anti-terrorism bill. Hindi ho lahat ng mga nagsalita laban sa bill na ito ay aking sinasang-ayunan. Naniniwala rin ako sa ilang mga konsepto. But as a matter of principle, I believe that the House should come up with an important piece of legislation that is truly the work of the House of Representatives, not just a mere adoption of the other chamber. We understand that they went through the same process that we undergo, but the ability of each member of the House to put in their own work into the crafting of a legislation is something that I hold dear as a matter of principle. So, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect to all my colleagues, to those who I've been working with, and to the security agencies that we have been working with regard to this bill, I beg your understanding because my position, after all that has been said by the members of the House of Representatives, I believe that we should stand up for the House. And because of this, my vote is no to the bill. And my name could not be attached to a bill that is not my real work. So my withdrawal as author of the measure is another thing that I would like to present to the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, my colleagues.
The Honorable Billones.
Congressman Billones, you have 3 minutes to explain your vote. Please proceed. Congressman Billones.
Mr. Speaker.
Congressman Defensor.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, with the indulgence of the Honorable Billones, I'd just like to ask Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Biason is the main author of House Bill 6875. He did not only abstain, but he voted against it. May I know the status of this bill, therefore, Mr. Speaker?
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Biazon is not the sole author of this measure, Mr. Speaker. So the vote still stands, Mr. Speaker. The number of vote still stands. Perhaps when he was defending his bill, perhaps the interpellators convinced him otherwise. And that is his choice, Mr. Speaker.
Are you
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
satisfied?
Speaker. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader.
Majority Leader. Secgen. Who's the next? Wala na. Okay. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry, I did not hear your manifestation or your command.
No, regarding the status of Congressman Biazon that Congressman Defensor asked.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, though he's an integral part of this bill, as he is one of the co-authors, since he has manifested his desire to remove himself, then it should be followed, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, that's why, Mr. Majority Leader, Congressman Defensor is satisfied in your answer.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I already thank the Honorable Speaker and Honorable Majority Floor Leader, who are both Kapampangans, and I think there's a miscommunication in the course of the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Majority Leader, you are now recognized. Next slide. Wala na.
Mr. Speaker, I think we have to announce the number of votes and if it's approved on third reading or not.
We approve already, Mr. Majority Leader. I read already the number of votes, those who are in affirmative and against, and those who are abstain. I read it few minutes ago before the explanation of vote.
So without
approve on third and final reading, Mr. Majority.
Without Mr. Speaker, I move that the Secretary General, as soon as possible, be directed to transmit to the Senate all those bills today approved on third and final reading. Please transmit it to the Senate as soon as possible. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Chair is done. Motion is approved. The Secretary General, you can transmit those approved on third and final reading in the Senate. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend for a minute.
Session suspended. Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to resume House Bill 6878 and request the Secretary to read the title of the bill.
Is there any objection? The Chair is done. Motion is approved. The Secretary General is directed to read the title of the bill.
Old Norman. Old ako.
House Bill number 6878, an act strengthening the implementation of the National Organic Agricultural Program, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 10068 or the Organic Agriculture Act of 2010.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Chairman of the Committee on Agriculture and Food, the Honorable Mark Enverga from the 1st District of Quezon.
Chairman of Aqua and Agriculture, Chairman Enverga is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, distinguished Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker,
Majority Leader.
yes, there being no interpolators, I now move to close the period of sponsorship and debate.
Is there any objection? The chairing none, motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I now move to open for consideration the committee amendments, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection on the motion? Chair is none, motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there being no committee amendments, I now move to close the period of committee amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair is none, motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I now move to open the period of individual amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair is none, motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Arlene Brosas from the Gabriela Party List for her individual amendments.
Congresswoman Arlene Brosas, for your amendment, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to our good sponsor, will he be open for any individual amendments, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, most willingly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on page 3, section 2, lines 13 to 17 of House Bill 6878, amending RA 10069, otherwise known as the Organic Agriculture Act of 2010, a national organization of local government units actually engaged in and certified to be compliant with organic agriculture for the past 3 years may apply with the BAFs to become an organic certifying body. The proposed Makabayan amendments is to remove the role of National Organization of Local Government Units to become a certifying body. In lieu thereof, put, in quote, the National Organization of Local Government Units to exercise their general administrative mandate or functions such as promotion, supervision of the components of the organic agriculture programs such as letter A, policy support, local legislation, establishment of a local technical committee, LTC, for the promotion and implementation of organic agriculture, passage of Organic Agriculture Ordinance, the promotion, protection, and increase of organic agriculture, zones B, and zones B, to facilitate and organize small-scale farmers to adopt organic agriculture, C, to provide support systems for organic agriculture adoption, such as provision of appropriate technologies, equipment, and facilities, capacity building, market networking, financial support, etc.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, the committee finds the proposal acceptable, but the proposed letter A is already provided under RA 10068, Section 14, where local government officials shall implement activities in line with the National Organic Agriculture Program. The committee proposes the same to read as, the National Organization of Local Government Units shall encourage and supervise the promotion and implementation of the Organic Agriculture Program.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. Mr. Sponsor, on page 4, lines 20 to 34, definition of small farmers, to put an additional definition which states, in quote, additionally, for organic agriculture to be a viable alternative to small-scale farmers, attention should be directed to small-scale farmers such as farmers who are dependent on small-scale subsistence, farming as their primary source of income, and whose sale, barter, or exchange of agricultural products do not exceed a gross value of 180,000 pesos per annum based on 1992 constant prices as defined by Republic Act Number 7607 or Magna Carta for small farmers. Focus on communities where conventional GM crops, plantations, monoculture agriculture is prevailing. Areas where there is pronounced poverty or hunger, areas that are prone to climate change impacts, agrarian reform beneficiaries or farmers who are having issues on land ownership. Mr. Sponsor, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, some of the comments of the committee, the definition should be based on what is existing. The Magna Carta of 1993 definition is based on 1992 constant prices, as mentioned earlier, thus should be updated. Under the AFMA definition of 1997, small farmers and fisher folk refers to natural persons dependent on small-scale subsistence farming and fishing activities as their primary source of income. There may be several definitions as well, as in the case of for sugar and coconut, small farmers would refer to those with not more than 5 hectares. The proposed bill defines small farmers as those cultivating not more than 5 hectares and/or are engaged in raising poultry, livestock, etc., stating therein the number of heads the farmer is raising. With this definition, the proposal of our friends from Makabayan is clearly included. So our committee proposal is to retain the definition stated in House Bill number 6878.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. Next, on page 15, lines 33 to 34, which says, in the meantime, that a core PGS group or a municipal city PGS, whichever is the case, has yet to be established, the BAFs, in coordination with the local government unit concerned, shall assume the powers, duties, and responsibilities of these groups. Delete shall assume the powers, duties, and responsibilities of these groups, and in lieu thereof put assist small-scale farmers in the formation of the municipal city PGS. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Sponsor.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, we accept, but for consistency, use small farmers, not small-scale farmers. It shall now read as, in the meantime, that a core PGS group or a municipality or city PGS, whichever is the case, has yet to be established, the BAFS, in coordination with the local government unit concerned, shall assist small farmers in the formation of the municipality or city PGS.
Thank you for accepting, Mr. Sponsor, Mr. Speaker. On section 17, page 19, lines 10 to 12 says, the BAFs, BPI, BAI, and BFAR of the DA shall come up with a single unified set of rules and regulations for the registration of organic produce and inputs. Makabayan proposes to change the provision to the Bureau of Plant Industry of the DA shall be responsible for the registration of organic seeds, planting materials, and crops. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Sponsor.
Mr. Speaker, the provision stated in the bill, page 19, lines 10 to 12, cover the proposed provision on House Bill 6878 that states the BAFs, BPI, BAI, and BFAR of the DA shall come up with a single unified set of rules and regulations for the registration of organic produce and inputs. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Sponsor, Mr. Speaker. Additional Makabayan amendments. Additionally, the DA Bureau of Plant Industry and Local Government Units shall facilitate and coordinate the creation and/or strengthening of a local organic seed center needed to increase farmers' adoption to organic agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, we accept the proposed amendments.
However, these organic seeds centers should not displace community seed systems or trample the right of farmers to freely save, use, and improve their seeds, but act as complementary seed source for farmers who want to shift to organic culture. We should take lesson against creating a new layer of dependency, such as the seed companies that are profiting from seeds owned and developed by farmers.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, it is in the best interest that this be placed in the implementing rules and regulations. We beg to the indulgence of the distinguished friend from the Gabriela party list that we retain it as worded in House Bill 6878.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Sponsor. Mr. Sponsor, the Makabayan proposes to include Section 25 to 26 of House Bill 5336 from Rep. Kulyamat's bill in House Bill 6.